And so she called me, and she just went off on me.
So like I say, that Steve Harvey was in a perfect position to help me get clemency. I wouldn't have to go through what I went through, but God's hand was in it.
Jim Townsend says that when he was at the lowest point of his life, Steve Harvey was in the perfect position to help him, but everything flipped upside down, and he believes a bigger plan from above was unfolding, and now he insists that Marjorie is not just a celebrity wife, but someone tied to a secret stretching back years. This secret, he claims, connects her to the dark world of Jeffrey Epstein and links her to the alleged private freak-off surrounding Shawn Diddy Combs, and even places her inside a silent network where elite players used leverage and hidden payoffs to bury the truth and protect their clean public image. And he says this is not some messy breakup from the 90s or random gossip, but the testimony of a man who spent more than 2 decades in federal custody watching the rise of Steve and Marjorie Harvey as they went from Memphis hustle to a global empire. And he now claims that this glamorous empire was not built in bright stage lights, but in shadows where truth was forbidden and silence was the most expensive currency of all.
Steve Harvey sending this, he's sending shots your way.
Steve Harvey was hating on me big time.
This is the man who received a life sentence in the early 1990s for his connection to a major trafficking ring that moved illicit product between Houston and Memphis, a case so serious that federal agencies monitored not only him but everyone around him. And during those same years, Marjorie was not the polished red carpet figure the world sees today, but a young Memphis woman married to someone the authorities viewed as a major player, and according to him, investigators were deeply interested in her too. He claims that the FBI held material that could have pulled her directly into his case, and that he cut a deal to keep her from being indicted at the time. And if that claim is true, it reframes everything that came afterward, because Marjorie later built an image of a devoted wife, a mother, a Christian entrepreneur, a world traveler, and a charity host. Yet his narrative paints her as a strategic operator, someone who learned early how to move through dangerous circles, how to stay one step away from paperwork and charges, and how to let the men around her take the official falls while she remained safely out of reach.
I talked to Morgan. I said, Morgan, tell your stepdad, Steve. I said, he's in a perfect position to help me get clemency. At that time, they was giving out clemency.
When he says she helped those men and now she is helping Steve, he is drawing a straight line from the Memphis logistics of the 90s to the polished, corporate-friendly image of the 2000s and 2010s, where a carefully controlled public persona shaped an entire empire. And the urgency now is all about timing, because Townsend's memoir Snakes in the Garden, which he began writing inside prison and released after his 2017 presidential pardon, is landing in a media environment obsessed with unsealed Epstein files, where federal cases have dragged major names from private jets into New Jersey federal facilities, and where the public is exhausted by perfectly curated celebrity marriages. Then in early November 2025, U.S. lawmakers released more than 20,000 pages of Epstein-related documents, including email exchanges where a financier casually writes that Donald Trump was the dog that never barked, and where the names of alleged victims were first redacted, then exposed in fuller versions of the files. And all of this is unfolding at the exact moment when Townsend's story suddenly feels like the missing piece of a puzzle people have been trying to solve for years.
Again, there was new names in some of the emails that I think investigators need to look at. In particular, I jumped on the name of a modeling agent who, in a similar fashion to Jean-Luc Brunel, who brought underage girls from overseas to Jeffrey Epstein for abuse. There was another man. What was interesting about this other individual is that he also apparently provided young models for Donald Trump's modeling agency.
Those papers do not confirm a master list of every person tied to Jeffrey Epstein, but they reignited major questions about who was named, who was blurred out, and who never appeared at all. And industry sources now describe Townsend's latest claims as a ticking clock for the Harveys, because on one side you have a man who says he once bargained with federal agents to protect Marjorie, and on the other side, you have a powerful couple trying to shut down a narrative before it drags their names toward the same toxic ecosystem that has already taken down billionaires, royals, and even a hip-hop mogul like Shawn Diddy Combs. And we have already seen Steve and Marjorie publicly defend their marriage back in 2023, when online voices accused her of stepping out with a bodyguard and even a family chef, as rumors tried to shake the image they worked so hard to build.
See, I had 5 years of probation on that.
Yeah.
But Obama administration took that off of me.
At InvestFest in Atlanta, Steve Harvey stood on stage telling the crowd he was fine and that Marjorie was fine, brushing off the talk as nonsense they refused to validate, while Marjorie posted a religious blog about enduring lies and framed herself as a woman under attack for her blessings. But Townsend's angle hits an entirely different lane, because this is not about a bodyguard or an Instagram unfollow. This is about federal case files, presidential pardons, and a pattern of proximity to men whose names are tied to some of the darkest headlines of the last decade and long before she walked red carpets. Besides Steve, Marjorie was connected not just to Jim Townsend but later to Donald Woods, described in multiple reports as a trafficker and alleged relative of Townsend, and between those two marriages came 3 children, Morgan and Jason with Townsend and Lori with Woods, the same Lori who later became a blog favorite after being photographed on vacation with Diddy in Cabo and Italy in 2019 at tables where Steve and Marjorie were also present. And now looking back, that connection carries a weight that is impossible to ignore.
Her mother is 54 years old. Her mother is 5 years older than Puffy.
In the summer of 2019, when Lori Harvey and Diddy were spotted in matching outfits in New York, followed by trips to Mexico and the Italian coast, public attention focused on the 27-year age gap and rumors she had previously been linked to Diddy's son Justin Combs, and Steve Harvey was dragged into comment sections for staying silent while his 22-year-old stepdaughter appeared wrapped into the orbit of a 49-year-old music mogul whose lifestyle had long been whispered about in the industry. Insiders at the time told entertainment outlets that Lori made him happy as he mourned the loss of Kim Porter, and that their relationship was more about comfort and friendship than pure romance. But years later, federal prosecutors described a far darker picture behind those luxury trips in court documents and testimony that peaked in 2024 and 2025. Witnesses described Diddy's so-called freak-offs as days-long substance-fueled intimate marathons with paid participants flown across state and international lines, encounters he arranged, observed, and often recorded. And although a New York jury acquitted him of the most serious trafficking and racketeering conspiracy counts, he was convicted on 2 transportation for adult services related charges, enough to send him into federal custody and a highly coveted residential substance abuse program at FCI Fort Dix.
And in the emails, it is quite clear that Jeffrey Epstein had a wide, almost incalculably wide circle of associates, people who were celebrities, people who were either in foreign governments or leaders of foreign governments, business tycoons, and the like.
Former associates spoke of a long pattern of controlling relationships, pressure, and leverage built through money, travel, and compromising footage. And when we map that back to Lori Harvey, 2019 trips to dinner tables in Italy where Steve Harvey and Marjorie Harvey sat across from a man now serving time and working as a chaplain's assistant in prison, insiders say the questions practically write themselves. Were those gatherings just awkward modern-day dating optics, or were we glimpsing the same quiet pipeline that Jim Townsend now wants the world to see, a bridge between Memphis street smarts, high-profile entertainment figures, and secretive parties where the powerful kept score with footage and favors? Townsend and his camp have reportedly pointed to that period as proof that Marjorie didn't just escape her past. She learned how to convert old connections into new opportunities for the family brand, and the newly unsealed Epstein material only sharpens suspicion that she knew those girls were underage.
To these girls, and that she knew that they were underage. How do you just have this be so one-sided? It is, I mean, it's such a miscarriage of justice. This is not what justice is supposed to look like. It's just, it's incredibly disappointing.
In the newly surfaced emails from 2011 and 2015, Jeffrey Epstein and Ghislaine Maxwell discussed Donald Trump as someone who somehow was never directly implicated, calling him the dog that never barked, and noting that even chiefs of police never mentioned his name, despite a known association in another chain with author Michael Wolff. Epstein strategizes how Trump being asked about their relationship could be turned into PR currency depending on whether Trump denied or minimized contact. Lawmakers have admitted publicly that the released files are not a comprehensive archive. They are partial glimpses, thousands of pages with gaps, redactions, and unanswered questions about who else moved through those towns, islands, and private planes. And this is where Jim Townsend new allegations cut the deepest. He claims both in his memoir and in recent off-the-record conversations that Marjorie Harvey was the bridge between the streets and the suites, a woman who understood how to keep her own name off manifests while connecting high-level players to women from her network for exclusive gatherings.
I want to know how Epstein made the money that he did. I want to know what the transactions are he was involved in. And that should all be something that the Treasury Department, the FBI can get access to, because in the meantime, what we're left with is Ghislaine Maxwell effectively downplaying this whole thing. Yeah, he was he hid it from everybody. Nobody else was involved. There's no proof of anything else. There's no blackmail. There's no foreign intelligence tie.
Paired with the fact that some victim names in the Jeffrey Epstein files were initially blacked out, then revealed only in unredacted subsections, online sleuths now speculate whether certain female facilitators or go-betweens were intentionally protected, either to preserve ongoing cooperation or to shield power structures reaching into television, politics, and music. The FBI has not commented publicly on any suggestion that Marjorie Harvey name ever appeared in their internal materials. Fans of Steve Harvey, who built an empire on family advice books, motivational speeches, and a clean television persona, are struggling to reconcile that image with the idea that his wife could have once been close enough to serious crime and elite scandal to be worth shielding. We have already seen how quickly the public turned on him when cheating rumors surfaced, accusing him of hypocrisy because of his best-selling relationship manuals. Now imagine those same audiences being asked to process suggestions that his third wife may have survived to major trafficking-linked marriages, circumvented indictment through a plea bargain she did not personally sign, and then allegedly moved those same survival skills into the boardrooms and backrooms of entertainment, where Jeffrey Epstein emails and Diddy freak-off tapes became the new form of leverage.